Stay tuned to the end of this video to find out how you can win a custom built PC and many other cool PC hardware prizes.
The day has come. It's time to fill the red rum. We're gonna fire this baby up. Everything is ready to roll. Right now I'm just flushing everything out. Got that Mayhem's Blitz cleaner in there running. That distilled water is actually all distilled. It has a tint to it because Red Rum 3 had some black coolant in it, and that tint is kind of pretty much the residual. So once we run through a few flushes through it, got the distill running clear, probably about 3 or 4 flushes, it was already good to go. It looks like Sprite, but it is distilled water. Most of it's bubbles coming from air pockets in the reservoir. I'm sorry, not the reservoir, in the radiator. Possibly a lot of air probably left over it. It's harder to get all the air bubbles out this case because I don't have the ability to roll it around. 3D5 pumps trying as hard, the best as they can to get all that air out, but there is still some. As you can see here, there's a little bit of an air pocket on the top of the top area of that GPU water block. So we pretty much ran it all the way clean. Nothing else to worry about. Going ahead and empty this out, get it all drained up, and get some fresh distilled in there. Now, I utilized a lot of valves in this build for, obvious reasons. As complex as this loop is, you gotta have more than one drain port. Typical builds, water loops, they have an inlet and an outlet. This one has 3 actual outlets. You'll see them here as they come into play. I can drain the 3 different areas of the loop, and I can also fill it in the same 3 different areas. But the middle, that actual middle 150 millimeters, kind of off. I didn't arrange it to where it can be used as a fill port. Mostly the left and the right 400 millimeter reservoirs are where it's filled at. So we're going to drain them from the middle and the left and the right. First, I'm going to have to unplug the top ports so that some air can flow through, so the water that we're letting out can be replaced with air. That's what you can see here. These X3 reservoir tops have 5, 2 on the front, 3 on the top. Drain and fill ports for whichever configuration you want to run them. You'll see that one on the left is running the top fill, and it also has the drain at the bottom front. Same thing with the right side, except there is no top fill since there is only one loop, one beginning point and one exit point, and that is on the left 400 millimeter reservoir, enter and exit. But you'll see me get a gallon jug. We're just gonna open up this drain valve here, and you'll notice the distilled water is gonna start letting itself out. That right side reservoir, a few air bubbles coming through, that lets you know you got some good flow. If it's not moving, then something's still plugged up. If you got to have some flow, some airflow. I'm sorry, you have to have the vacuum has to be released. So in order for you to replace the water with air, which would empty the system, you have to have the vacuum to be relieved some kind of way. So in this instance, it was the top fills of those reservoirs. Once those are all unplugged, it's pretty much, it's not gonna fly out unless you have some air. You could possibly turn the pumps on and allow it to flush out that way, but it's a lot trickier that way, more riskier. The water may splash everywhere but in this case it probably wouldn't. It would be more safe since I am using actual drain faucet like setups with these valves and these double 45-degree fittings, rotary fittings. I'm going to take that fitting off. Actually, those 2 45s that this gallon jug is draining into is just there pretty much for this exact purpose, to drain. But once we get it all drained up, it takes a little while to let it flow out. I prefer to use the gravity method. The lowest point of the loop will have a lot faster drain than say a midpoint or things like that. But also with the gravity method, with this method, the gravity will pull as much coolant or water to the bottom area of the drain as possible. So if you have some radiators situated the way these are, in a vertical rather than a horizontal fashion, it'll be a lot easier on you. You don't have to go flipping the case around. If you have horizontal radiators, then it'll be a little bit more trickier. You may have to tilt it left or right in order to get all of it flowing to where it needs to go, which is down, because your drain port should be at the lowest point of the loop. Typical rule of thumb when you're utilizing a water loop in a system like this. So I would went ahead and dumped all that distilled out. It's no more good. I'm gonna get the rest of the cooling out of this left side 400 millimeter reservoir. I'm just gonna open up the valve. Same deal. The top is already unplugged. As long as I got all that out, I can move over to the other side and get that out. And once we got all of it cleaned, once we got all of it clear, just dump it out and get ready to mix the coolant. I know that this is pure 100% distilled. There's no more tainted water in it, because I flushed it quite a few many times. So if there is residual water in it, it'll be fine to mix with the concentrate. I prefer to use a concentrate. That way, in this type of instance, you don't end up with diluted coolant, like such as if you used a premix. But for just for safe measure, I went ahead and attached some plastic tube to a fitting, plugged it up to the top of the reservoir, and I'm going to actually use air pressure. I'm just going to blow into it, so that any water that's left on inside of the loop will be pushed back into the reservoir, and that way I can drain it again, and I can repeat this cycle as necessary. As many times as it takes. 1 or 2 times should be fine for good measure, but you don't want to leave too much. If you do so happen to leave some behind, again, when using concentrate and you're mixing, you can kind of balance it out and you can kind of fix it. But this amount that you see here that I flushed back out, that I pushed back out, it's a little bit too much. When I'm talking residuals, I'm talking about a few drops, nothing more than a cup, a cup or cup and a half or something like that. But I did this a few times. Well, like I said, 1 or 2 times is fine. Don't need to do it, to get every last drop out. Once you got the majority of it, 85-90% of the water out, using a concentrate will be fine. It's not going to hurt anything. It's going to mix the same with the distilled water, as long as it's clear. But that X1 UV red is what I use. It is a Mayhem's dye coolant, whatever you want to call it. It's a concentrate, so I can mix it to as dark as I like. I try to aim for like a cherry type of red. I prefer cherry red. I don't like the strawberry kind of red. It's more of a lighter red. I wanted it to match the LEDs on that are on the fans and that are on the motherboard. But once we got that all mixed up, top fill is how we're going to be doing it. You will see here as the coolant is flowing in from the top funnel to the or just take a funnel to the top port, pour it in like you're topping off a car oil, or maybe a radiator oil or something radiator coolant, or anything like that. You see that cherry red is coming in. It looks pretty good. It takes a while when you're doing concentrates. Trying to get it right is a little bit of a science. You do have the directions, but those directions will lead you to a hue of the coolant that was prescribed by the company, in this case meaning Mayhem. You want it a little bit darker, maybe you want a little bit lighter, it'll be all up to you. They give you whatever they classify as whatever was on the label. They give you that formula, but here I'd use my own formula. Whatever, I mix a little bit more to give a kind of dark, richer cherry type of red. You'll see here, once it actually starts to flow, it'll kind of lighten itself up, and that's mostly due to all the air that's going to be incorporated once, you know, I blew all the reservoirs and the pumps dry. You'll see a few of those bubbles there, but once it really gets going, you'll see it kind of it foams up on me a little bit more. That UV red looks pretty good though. The cherry, I think I got it right to where I wanted it. Once it settles, actually, it'll kind of darken itself up a little bit more. That way it doesn't stand out too much. I don't want the coolant to be, like, again, too light of a red hue, a strawberry, like a stop sign red or anything like that. I prefer not to. I prefer to have a darker, rich kind of red. That way it lasts a little bit longer. But, you know, actually, with all things considered, there's a possibility that the heat may make it change as well. You know, it may get a little darker depending on how it reacts with all the components, with the water blocks and the radiators. But in this case, hopefully it holds up pretty well. I in fact wanted to use the Mayhem's Aurora 2, but I decided against it. And so you guys may have saw it in a few videos ago. I decided against it. But once we got that all filled up, we're going to go ahead and start up the pumps, get everything flowing. The first initial startup, you gotta keep your finger ready to turn it off, because it'll run them dry. If you have a large loop like this one, a very long loop, it takes a lot of coolant to fill, and you know you got to be ready with your finger to turn it off, because if the pump runs dry, you've got air and it creates even more problems. I've already pushed all the water out, you know, manually with that hose, so there's a pretty good likelihood, a pretty good chance that I've, you know, pushed all of the water out of some of those pumps. So that air is already expected to be there. It always happens, is, you know, no way around it when you're completely draining a loop, which is what you're going to have to do if you want to do it the right way. So here I just pretty much ran it through one time. It wasn't enough. Filled it up, top both of them off again, and we're going to repeat the process. It may take you 2 or 3 times to do this process. I think I did it 3 or 4 times, because again, it may not be enough the first try, but once you've got the coolant flowing and you've got your reservoirs no longer emptying themselves, you can pretty much top them off, because you know you've got enough coolant in to flow, and then from there you would just get your reservoirs right. If you can see here, it was flowing pretty good, about 0.4 gallons per minute, but I did notice I had a lot of air in my pump, especially the center pump. You can see me tapping on it here, and this is pretty much to get the air bubbles out, to kind of free those air pockets out of the pump, because it is possible for it to get, if there's no water in it, the pump, then it's not gonna perform like it's supposed to. So to kind of knock those air bubbles out, get them free, I just pretty much tap on them. You can tap on them, or some people flip their cases around. The flipping is not an option for me here, because this case, obviously, you can look at it, it's not something you can be flipping around. So I pretty much tapped on them, and usually when you run them for quite a long time, they will just free themselves up, and you won't have to worry about anything like that. They will just kind of set themselves straight. But once I say about an hour or two, they kind of went back to complete normal. Took about 10 minutes for them to get all the air out, but then you all that foam that was created, it has to work itself out as well. A top off of them will help. The coolant looks pretty good. It's a little whitish because of all the air bubbles and foam that was created, but just repeating the process, it takes a little time. Give yourself about an hour or something like that to watch it go complete normal, for it to balance itself out, because there's still air in the different pockets of the radiators, reservoirs, the pumps. But enough time, it'll all just balance itself out, and it'll all work out. So I just topped them off again. I'm gonna plug them back up and run the system. This time I'm gonna run it complete and throughout, because I did fill them up. I got them to the level that I want them, So now all there is left to do is turn it on, let it run, and then just pretty much enjoy the creation, because this is it. This is what we created. It ended here. It was a good journey. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed building these machines.
As for the PC giveaway, you guys, Computer Enthusiast Master Race, www.facebook.com/groups/CE Master Race. Head over there and join up if you would like to have an opportunity to win a custom built PC in one of the cases that you may or may not see in this video. We are giving away a custom built PC. We do it every year. It's called the People's Rig. This is the 2.0 version. We are there now, but you must be a member of Computer Enthusiast Master Race Facebook group in order to have a chance to win this. Also, in addition to that, we have many other PC hardware prizes that we give away, as well as game codes and things of that nature. You know, they come around quite often at random. There is no schedule as of now, but they come around quite often. So you want to be a member of Computer Enthusiast Master Race Facebook group, www.facebook.com/groups/CE Master Race. Go ahead and join up, guys. After you do that, subscribe to this channel. Make sure you're keeping track of everything that we're doing in Computer Enthusiast Master Race and all the content that we're going to be having on the channel. You don't want to miss out. Also, go ahead over to Instagram, www.instagram.com. If you have an account, follow at Albus_Tech_group, as well as CE_Master_Race. Follow those two Instagram accounts. So you're keeping track of everything that you can possibly keep track of that we're going to be doing in the group, the mother group, CE Master Race, Computer Enthusiast Master Race on Facebook. But make sure you guys take care of that, and I'll see y'all in the next video.